There is no difference between communism and socialism, except in the means of achieving the same ultimate end. Communism proposes to enslave men by force, socialism, by vote. It is merely the difference between murder and suicide. A businessman cannot force you to buy his product. If he makes a mistake, he suffers the consequences. If he fails, he takes the loss. If bureaucrat makes a mistake, you suffer the consequences. If he fails, he passes the loss on to you. We are fast approaching the stage of the ultimate inversion, the stage where the government is free to do anything it pleases, while the citizens may act only by permission, which is the stage of the darkest periods of human history, the stage of rule by brute force. When you see that trading is done, not by consent, but by compulsion, when you see that in order to produce, you need to obtain permission from men who produce nothing, when you see that money is flowing to those who deal, not in goods, but in favors, when you see that men get richer by graft and by pull than by work, and your laws don't protect you against them, but protect them against you, when you see corruption being rewarded and honesty becoming a self-sacrifice, you may know that your society is doomed. Do not keep silent when your own ideas and values are being attacked. If a dictatorship ever comes to this country, it will be by the fault of those who keep silent. We are still free enough to speak. Do we have time? No one can tell. The government was set to protect man from criminals, and the Constitution was written to protect man from the government. The Bill of Rights was not directed at private citizens, but against the government as an explicit declaration that individual rights supersede any public or social power. We can evade reality, but we cannot evade the consequences of evading reality. The smallest minority on earth is the individual. Those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defenders of minorities. The majority of those who are loosely identified by the term liberals are afraid to let themselves discover that what they advocate is statism. They want to keep all the advantages and effects of capitalism, while destroying the cause, and they want to establish statism without its necessary effects. They do not want to know or to admit that they are the champions of dictatorship and slavery. Socialism is the doctrine that man has no right to exist for his own sake, that his life and his work do not belong to him, but belong to society, that the only justification of his existence is his service to society, and that society may dispose of him in any way it pleases for the sake of whatever it deems to be its own tribal, collective good. If you surrender everything to the government and give it total power to plan the whole economy, this will not guarantee your economic security, but it will guarantee the descent of the entire nation to a level of miserable poverty, as the practical results of every totalitarian economy, communist or fascist, have demonstrated. The man who speaks to you of sacrifice, speaks of slaves and masters, and intends to be the master. There's no way to rule innocent men. The only power any government has is the power to crack down on criminals. Well, when there aren't enough criminals, one makes them. One declares so many things to be a crime that it becomes impossible for me to live without breaking laws. Who wants a nation of law-abiding citizens? What's there in that for anyone? but just pass the kind of laws that can neither be observed or enforced nor objectively interpreted, and you create a nation of lawbreakers, and then you cash in on guilt. Do not help your jailers to pretend that their jail is your natural state of existence. America's abundance was created not by public sacrifices to the common good, but by the productive genius of free men who pursued their own personal interests and the making of their own private fortunes. They did not starve the people to pay for America's industrialization. They gave the people better jobs, higher wages, and cheaper goods with every new machine they invented, with every scientific discovery or technological advance, and thus the whole country was moving forward and profiting, not suffering, every step of the way. The truth is not for all men, but only for those who seek it. The uncontested absurdities of today are the accepted slogans of tomorrow. They come to be accepted by degrees, by dint of constant pressure on one side and constant retreat on the other, until one day when they are suddenly declared to be the country's official ideology. There can be no compromise between freedom and government controls. To accept just a few controls is to surrender the principle of inalienable individual rights and to substitute for it the principle of the government's unlimited, arbitrary power, thus delivering oneself into gradual enslavement. As an example of this process, observe the present domestic policy of the United States. The United States Constitution is a limitation on the government, not on private individuals. It does not prescribe the conduct of private individuals, only the conduct of the government. It is not a charter for government power, but a charter of the citizens' protection against the government. The uncontested absurdities of today are the accepted slogans of tomorrow. A society that robs an individual of the product of his effort is not strictly speaking a society, but a mob held together by institutionalized gang violence. Whoever claims the right to redistribute the wealth produced by others is claiming the right to treat human beings as chattel. Individual rights are not subject to a public vote. A majority has no right to vote away the rights of a minority. The political function of rights is precisely to protect minorities from oppression by majorities, and the smallest minority on earth is the individual. If the truth shall kill them, let them die. America's founding ideal was the principle of individual rights. Nothing more and nothing less. The rest, everything that America achieved, everything she became, everything noble and just, and heroic, and great, and unprecedented in human history was the logical consequence of fidelity to that one principle.